Okay, so a question that I got more than once is, hey Matt, after you convert a cabinet to Vapor Blast, can you go back to Dry Blast? And my answer was always no, and especially for the Harbor Freight version, because we do a lot of modifications to it that it would be really hard to go back to Dry Blast, okay? Now, the other day I was looking at my DIY Wood Blast cabinet and I thought to myself, why not? Why can't it go back to dry? So in this video, I'm just going to show you how I can go back from dry to wet, wet to dry in a matter of minutes, no tools, and it works freaking awesome. Okay, so here it is. It's done. It's converted. It took about $300 for all the dry sandblasting parts, and it takes just a couple minutes to swap everything over, with the exception of letting all the water dry out of here. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a second. But basically, what I've done, if you don't know this or not, I have plans on how you can build this DIY wood vapor blaster cabinet. Link is in the upper right. It's over 13 hours of video content on how to build this fully loaded vapor blaster, and I just added an hour-long, almost an hour-long video chapter on how you can go back to dry blast. Okay, so it's plans, 14 hours long, tons of PDFs, prints, everything, you name it. It's very detailed. And something else that I just started up based on feedback from some people who bought the plans is like, hey, let's set up a Facebook group for support. So if you bought the plans, if you buy the plans, you get access to a private Facebook group, and we talk about anything related to the builds and blasting and whatnot, and there's over 100 members in there already. So that's another perk if you choose to go with my plans. But anyway, this is freaking pretty cool because it's one cabinet and it can do both processes, both dry and wet. And as far as I know, a cabinet like this that is swappable quickly does not exist. So that is very cool because I know you're probably like me and you don't have room for multiple cabinets. I only have room for one, or I only want room for one, okay? I got other stuff in here. So to go back and forth is pretty cool. And you're probably wondering why dry blast, right? Well, there's some cases that you're going to want to dry blast instead of wet blast. I mean, you don't have to wet blast everything. Just like metal brackets with paint and rust on it, it's quicker to dry blast it, okay? No need to go wet and go through swapping media and whatnot and then having to deal with rust, right? There's anti-flash rust things you can do. But anyway, I mean, and if you look at the guys that vapor blast for a living, they have dry blast cabinets because some parts are just terrible. Corroded aluminum or painted aluminum or whatever, you are going to want to dry blast as a first pass to do some aggressive cutting and getting all that junk off, and then go over with a final polish with the vapor blast, and then you get the desired look. So this is pretty cool. I mean, a cabinet that can do both operations. Okay, so what does it take to go to dry blast? Well, we need an intake, so I put one on the door, and this vent is now a suction or whatever hooked up to a shop vac, and I have the Dust Deputy in line. I've used this with my Harbor Freight when it was dry. This thing works great to filter out like 99% of the media, dust, whatever gets airborne, and then you have your shop vac. And I also have a speed controller so I can tune my shop vac for the suction I want, right? And of course, what's nice is I have a metering valve, and this is better than a suction tube, okay, a tube that just sticks in. What's nice about this is it gets constant media, and then there's an air bleed on it, and you can do a lean or rich media flow. So that's pretty cool. That is definitely an upgrade over a siphon system, okay? And then the media hose and all this, everything's quick connect. No tools are necessary to do the swap, okay? And you can go from dry to wet very quickly because you just sweep out all the media, do a rinse, put all your wet blast stuff in, and then you're up and running with wet blast. Now, to go from wet to dry, it's going to take a little bit of time because basically after you purge the lines of water and you rinse it down and everything and you take everything out, everything's wet, right? So it's going to take a day to dry, or you can put a box fan on it, or if it's 90 degrees in your garage for whatever reason, it's going to dry rather quickly, okay? And the only water that sits in here is a little bit at the very bottom, which you can sponge out. But other than that, the pit holds all the water. All right, guys, I want to talk about this funnel and the shaker motor, okay? So when I originally designed this cabinet, this funnel was designed such that the pit can roll under here, and this angle is sufficient for water and media and slurry to flow back to the pit. Perfect, right? Now, with dry blast, this angle should be a lot steeper, okay? You see cabinets, dry blast cabinets with very steep funnels, and that's just so the media flows by gravity to the metering valve, okay? So with this shallow angle, 50 pounds of media and no shaker motor, the metering valve will starve for media. So you have to go in there and push it around, or you aim the gun at the media to blow it around and get it to feed to the metering valve. Or another thing you can do is overload this with media. So instead of 50 pounds, put 60, 70, 80 pounds, and that'll get you a little further, okay? And just to be fair, my Harbor Freight cabinet did the same thing. You had to go in there, blow it around, push it around, or bang the side of the cabinet so the media will flow. Now, a very well-known company that makes dry blast cabinets, they have this shaker motor, and they say, hey, if your cabinet is over 48 inches, you need to install this shaker motor to help with the media flow. And this cabinet's 42 inches, so I'm close to that. But anyway, it says, hey, if you add this vibrator shaker, it'll help jostle around the media and it'll flow better to the metering valve. So I installed it, and it works. However, looking down by the metering valve, the media, it's like on the verge of starving. It hasn't starved. It works. I can blast for a long time, but it's very close to starving, okay? So that's a $120 part. It's an improvement, and it works. So I thought I'd just mention that. So to summarize, it works. You may have to mess with the media, or you got to buy the shaker motor. And I have it hooked up to a foot switch here. So when you blast, the thing runs, and it's vibrating the media towards the metering valve, okay? So basically it's just an offset weight on a motor. It's spun, and the whole thing is just vibrating. So it's pretty cool. It works good. I mean, for a dual purpose cabinet, I mean, this isn't perfect, but it works pretty darn good. So I just thought I'd mention that. And another thing I should mention is this in vapor blasting format has all the features of a $7,500 cabinet. And then a dry blast cabinet about this size is like about $1,000. Okay, so you're talking $8,500 wrapped up into one machine that can do it all. And I think I got a little over than $3,000 in this thing, and it is freaking loaded like a Cadillac. All right, so let's try this thing out. Let's see how it dry blasts, and you can see for yourself. This thing dry blasts perfect. All right, and here's the pump, and I totally forgot to plug that guy there, so probably don't want to use this guy. Probably full of media. Maybe I'll flush it out. Maybe I'll paint it. I don't know, but just to demo this part, dry blasting with the right media is extremely fast and works great. All right, guys, that's it for this video. If you're interested in building one of these, plans are in the upper right. You can do wet, you can do dry, all in one cabinet, 14 hours of video content, PDFs, documents, everything you need to build one of these out of 3 sheets of plywood, and it works great.